Hello. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Role Playing. Yes, this is Spencer happening here for another quick intro. As you all know, this is season 6 of the Role Playing Guys, and we are in session 4 of the Flying Circus, a game brought to us by Erica Chappell, the creator of the game, who is now selling the game on DriveThruRPG and another website that I can't remember the name of that is mentioned in the episode. So you can check out the game. It's $25 there. We're including a link in the description box, so if you want to click on it that way, that would probably be the easiest way to find it. And also, it is a top seller on DriveThruRPG right now, so congratulations, Erica. You are doing an awesome job with an awesome game. The next game that we are going to be running is A Cool and Lonely Courage by Alex White. We will explain the game during the end of this episode, and I'm expecting that will probably be 3, maybe 4 episodes to go through this game. If you haven't already, please rate and subscribe to the show. Tell all your friends about it as well. The more you tell others, the more we can do this and provide more fun content for you all, especially in these trying times. If you have questions or suggestions, please reach out to us at rolepg13@gmail.com or any of our social media accounts, that is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As you know, we are part of the Necropodicon Podcast Network, which means that we do as the gods of the podcast network tell us to do. Something fun that the gods are doing is they have decided to do giveaways for some cool games. So every week they're doing a giveaway of 1 or 2 different games. The first week of the giveaway was actually last week, and I apologize that I missed that. I recorded the intro to the show before it was all out there and all the settings were complete. If you want more information on how to participate in the giveaway, you can check out the Discord server for the Necropodicon Network. The easiest way to do that is to check out our website, rolepg13.com, and click the Join Discord button. There you'll learn how to join Discord and you'll get access to the entire network, and you'll be able to rub virtual elbows with everyone in it, the awesome game creators and content creators there. Finally, thank you so much to our patrons over the land of Patreon, Brad, Jules, and Steven. You are the deadbolt to our front door in a shoddy neighborhood. Without you, we'd be terrified to go to bed at night. And finally, as you know, we are doing our classic pandemic check-in. We want to remind you to check the World Health Organization website to get the most up-to-date information. There are a lot of recommendations out there, and these are things that have been consistently stated, such as stay at home, wash your hands, and cover your cough. Remember that you are not just doing this for yourself, you are doing it for those who are more vulnerable than you. So think of somebody else for a change, damn it! I know I sound like a crazy guy when I say that, but at least I'm not as crazy as the conspiracy theorists out there. So please do not listen to those insane people. Get your information from the fact source, the World Health Organization, or the CDC, or the website of your National Health Service. I know that we have listeners all over the world, so they probably have some good information too. That's all I have. Let's get to the episode.
Anyway, welcome to another episode of the Role Playing Guys. I am Nick, the GM of the Flying Circus adventure. With me is Rebecca, who played Indira.
Hey, everyone.
Tyler, who played Wolfgang.
999.
And Spencer, who played Oscar.
Flying high or dying trying.
So
Oscar.
this is so in our last episode. Well, I don't know if Tyler wants to give a recap of what happened last time.
Yeah, so we pretty much finished our dogfight with the Red Baron and his cronies. We flew and we bombed Totoro, which was my favorite part of the night. And then we flew back, and then we talked with Mona, and she was like, thanks, here's your money. And then Oscar was like, I'm going to do this sleight of hand trick and get more money. So he took 2 in his pocket and was like, you owe me more money. And it worked miraculously. And then we flew back to base. She gave us a letter. Of course, I opened it. It was to Trent / what's his name? Carl.
So it was Carl.
Carl Trentis.
Carl Trenton Webern. Although his real name turned out to be Trent Carlson.
Trent Carlson. So we flew back to base. I read the letter, which basically said he was part of this empire that I fought in one of the Great Wars. At least I confronted him. The rest of the crew was kind of not part of that, except for Indira slightly, since she trusts me more. Oscar, I don't really know where Oscar went. He just went off somewhere. I killed him, and then we went and bombed the crap out of that giant robot, and I found beauty at the end.
Very nice.
That's all. I don't know if I missed anything, but that's the gist.
That was about it. But yeah. So that was the conclusion to our short Flying Circus adventure, and this is the episode where we talk about the game. Because when we initially got the game a few months ago, actually it was back in November, but we were finally able to play it like now.
A long few months ago.
It was, yeah, but again, like, you know, it was according to it, like, I think we were in the middle of Wrath and Glory at the time, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was according to our schedule when we got to it.
Exactly. But yeah, it is actually now released on DriveThruRPG and itch.io. And so, very exciting for Erica Chappell, the writer. So yeah, let's talk about it. Because this, at least when we got it, this was a game in beta, although it's not that way anymore. I think we agreed that we're not giving this like a rating per se, but we're just going to talk about what our thoughts were on the game and everything.
I think that also goes into the fact that we only played 4 episodes in it.
3 sessions, yeah, which I don't think is enough to truly like appreciate this game, because there is so much we could have included, but
we completely skipped out on like on foot exploration.
Yeah. So, did anyone want to go? Maybe we should just go like one per person, perhaps. Like I don't think we had any subjects or an outline to talk about, so maybe just have each person go. Did anyone want to volunteer to go first? Or perhaps I could go first because I was a GM, maybe.
Do we want to go through kind of with the rough outline of the general the normal criteria that we rate on, or are we just whatever your heart moves you to speak about?
Especially since we spent so little time, maybe just
I say
whatever you'd
heart.
Like. Whatever you'd like, I suppose.
I think
whatever
heart of the cards
moves you to speak on.
I think heart of the cards.
Heart of the
go
cards.
With that.
I guess
heart
so.
of the cards, spirit of the game.
I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start us off here. So I, overall, am very impressed with Flying Circus. I think it's a very fun and ambitious game, honestly, and very creative. Because, of course, it's one thing to have kind of built your own world. It's another thing to include Studio Ghibli elements in it. There's an airplane flying outside. Look at that.
Motorcycle.
Oh, motorcycle. Gosh, yeah, you're right.
Land airplane.
Whatever.
Basically
Anyway, but it's quite another to also include World War I airplanes, which I think is not explored very often in tabletop RPGs, and explored so well, honestly. Like, it explored it in depth anyway. At least I think it was very well done. It's clearly very well researched, although there is a bit of a learning curve, of course, with learning to use the plane, learning to use the resources you have with the plane and everything. Honestly, very inventive. I'll also note a few aspects of the game that we did not use to give you a sense of the scope. So not Player's Handbook. What is this book called? It's like
the core rule book, I guess.
The core rule book, yeah. It is it's about 300 pages long. There's a lot to it. So like we tried to focus on the core aspects of it, like air combat, dealing with stress, setup, and like the and landing of routines and things like that. Session 0.
I think we focused on a lot of the aspects that made the game unique.
Yeah, and that's what we tried to do. There were certainly many other like air maneuvers and air combat moves we could have used. There are lots of things about on the ground, like on the foot moves and exploration, exploring more facets of stress relief, of finances. There's also a section about finding work, also going deeper into the actual company or quote-unquote Flying Circus you're in. There are also, maybe I should have used these, like random mission generators and mission ideas and things like that.
Building your own plane.
Advanced weapons. Advanced rules include like ground fire, weather. Actually, there was stuff about bombing. Maybe I should have looked into that more since we actually used that. Like large constructs, large creatures, Leviathan machines, other flying circuses and famous squadrons, and more stuff about the setting. There's a lot here. So generally very impressed, especially since, like, at first I thought, when I first heard this was a Powered by the Apocalypse game, I'm like, oh, okay, so there's probably not a whole lot to it. Like, there's the setting, there's the moves. There's a lot more to it than that. Like, she took Powered by the Apocalypse and built on it. So yeah, probably the only real, like, I don't know if I want to say complaint is it takes a while to get used to, especially using planes and the air combat. Because it took us a little while just in the short amount of time we had. But once you do get used to it, there's definitely a lot of potential there. And I will also say that there seems to be a trend among tabletop RPGs where there's more concern about player safety, like feeling comfortable, or like what subjects people feel comfortable with. This game does have a very good section about that, like very well thought out, I think. So there is that, if that is something you care about. Overall, wonderful work, Erica Chappell. I never mentioned the price that this game has. You can buy this game. You can buy this game on, like I said, DriveThruRPG and itch.io for $25 on both platforms.
25 bones.
Yeah, that may seem like a little bit. That may seem like a bit of money but then again, the D&D Player's Handbook is $50. I can't remember if it's 300 pages, but I think you're definitely getting your money's worth with this. I think that's about all I have. So who wanted to go next?
I can go next. Mine's probably briefer since you hit a lot of the points. This was also my first Powered by the Apocalypse game. I remember listening to a game run by the Adventure Zone where they did the superhero version of it, I think. And it lends to a lot more... Yeah?
They also did Monster of the Week, which was Powered by the Apocalypse as well.
Okay, so they've done a few games. I thought, since it has that base, it led to being able to roleplay a lot. We missed that opportunity, but I think that's because I think we're focused more on learning the rules and how to apply them. But I think once you know how to play a game like that in the apocalypse setting, and then having the additional rules on top of it, I feel like you could make really great cinematic and memorable moments as you play. So I thought that was great. Agreeing with Nick, the most dense and complex part of the game is the air combat. There's a lot of different moving components. I think, at least in the book, it says that you don't need to really use the theater of the mind, or you need to use the theater of mind. It kind of pushes to do that more, but I feel like with air combat, it might slightly be better to have some kind of map or some kind of measurement of where things are, just to help people keep track of things. That's just me personally. Besides that, I feel like once we did learn all of the rules for air combat, or the ones that we at least used in the story, it was interesting and enjoyable. I feel like the character sheet is really innovative. For the planes in particular, we kind of touched on this during the episode, saying that it maybe has some dead space in it in some ways, in terms of like the altitude and the speeds and the RPM kind of stuff. But that could easily be fixed. Maybe having the gauges be smaller so you can put more information on different stuff, like your loadouts or your weapons on there, so it's all in one sheet. But in terms, it's really fun looking at it because you're on, like, you have a whole plane dashboard there.
Yeah,
I don't know what you call it.
Having sat in like a billion air vessels, I know what
I'm
it
an ace
like.
pilot since I played 3 episodes of this, so I'm an ace pilot. So I thought that was cool. Trying to think of anything else. Really great job creating a unique setting. I never would have mashed up, anime stuff with World War I planes with fantasy. That was unique. And it's nice because you can play it however you want. I mean, the setting's there, but it could be fun just playing with the, World War I setting, or going fully into the Studio Ghibli stuff. So it lends it to being able to play in all 3 sections.
Yeah, I had too much fun putting in Studio Ghibli references I feel like I'm going on. I feel like there's almost like half a dozen references in there somewhere.
And I had fun destroying all of them. That was the best part. But all in all, it's a solid game. I think the air combat is what separates it from other games that we've played. So I say that if she does make edits or changes, like focus more fully on that, because that's, kind of your selling point. But it was fun and it was enjoyable, and maybe we'll come back to it later.
Cool. Yeah, I think we were talking amongst ourselves earlier that it could be cool to do a full season on this someday, perhaps, because the potential certainly is there. This is definitely a much more meaty game, so than 3 sessions could possibly give just like 3 sessions can't really give justice to the amount of stuff in this. But great. So who among Spencer or Rebecca would like to go next?
I can go next.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
So I like Tyler said, it is a lot of paperwork you're trying to juggle, and we're playing on a smaller desk, so there wasn't a whole lot of room to spread out, which was a little challenging because I could only focus on so many things. I also would have loved to see having like a sheet with all of the available options for flight combat on it to reference, even if it doesn't have the details. But part of my problem was trying to scan through and see what all my options are, and then determine based on what my strengths were and where we were at in the combat what I could do.
I think she kind of has that if you look through the
Right.
character sheets.
There it
But
is.
I think I may have. I thought I printed
base.
it off, but I think I may have lost it somewhere.
It's very simple.
Yeah, if I were to
Okay.
look at it again, I feel like it has the names and like the description of what it does, but not
Okay.
necessarily like the attribute that you use for it. So I think if she were to add that, that would be useful. But I could be misremembering that.
I'm going to look at it right now, actually.
It's exactly that, because it explains what the move is, but the mechanics are not there.
Flying reference. Yeah.
So that would be like the only edit to that sheet, because I think Rebecca's right. Having that is nice, but it needs to be a little bit more to be usable.
And I'd love to see a little more spread on what, like, having more options. So I was super heavy on, go back up to the traits real quick.
Do what?
Daring, right?
I was really heavy on calm and daring and had -2s on hard and keen. And it seemed like with flying, most of the combat stuff involved hard and keen. So I was very limited on what I could do with better scores.
There are a few like I feel like walk the wing or empty seat. I think that's what it is. I think that one's daring. So
I do have skills in that too, which would have been useful if it ever came up. But when you're in a one-man plane, it's
just tie the steering wheel to be going the same direction,
right? And it could be that with more combat, it would have become more. I'd have more opportunities to have used the wing walking skill, but just never came up with R.
Actually, I was looking through the sort of playbooks area where these references are. There are some things that allow you to use daring instead of something else. For example, if you choose the slipstream mastery
Which I did.
thing, which you actually did, like if this were to keep going, you would have gained mastery in slipstream, in the slipstream path, I guess. One of the abilities in there, the one you get right off in that mastery path, is tables have turned. In a dogfight, you can use keen to turn the tables on your attacker, and daring to go on the offensive. Because when you turn the tables on your attacker, it's usually plus daring, and when you go on the offensive, it's usually plus hard. So you can go daring when you're on the offensive, for example, that kind of thing. It seems like there are certainly options there to use your strengths. It's just, again, with so little time, we had to focus.
And with so many different pages trying to look through, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it is there. The challenge is finding it. So,
Okay.
anyway.
And then, I mean, it's a very beautiful story, and I love the idea of, like, the small planes and being able to, I guess, go out and explore whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Studio Ghibli. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
We
you
can't
can
be
see
friends
through my
anymore.
actions.
My favorite part about the rulebook is still the fact that when it talks about the witch class, there's like a male and female drawing of each class, like male and female example. The female witch is like she has a purple dress and a bow in her hair and she has a broom and a clear reference to Kiki, which I just thought was so adorable. So anyway, was that it?
I mean, I feel like you guys have kind of touched over most of the other things that I
All right.
like the stress, actually. I did enjoy that.
Is that
And the ways of dealing with it.
is that something that's in all Powered by the Apocalypse games? Or other Powered by the Apocalypse games? Because I don't
think
feel
so.
like I've heard of it in others.
No. I don't think so.
I feel like this is probably, not that I know Powered by the Apocalypse as much, but I don't recall it being in other ones. Even if it was, it's not quite like this.
It's a pretty cool item to incorporate, and something that I think other games should consider, because it's true. Like, she brings up a really good point in the writing that you are doing something that's incredibly dangerous. Of course you're going to have stress.
And that stress stress can build you up. Like, you can use stress, like stress gives you experience points up to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get too much, you can't grow from it unless you handle it with your vices. So there are certainly some games out there where like they just made they make mechanics because they have to. But for this one, they did. It seemed like Erica did her best to make mechanics out like naturally out of what she felt the experience of the player should be, which I think is excellent design.
Yeah. I think it definitely shows a complexity to the game development that is typically absent.
Great. Well, if that was all from Rebecca, go ahead, Spencer.
Like you've already said, I think the concept or the setting is really niche. It's a really interesting combination of, like what Ty said, Germany, anime, and fantasy. You don't really see those three crossed very often, so that was cool. I'm going back and forth on my feelings on the mechanics of the game being based on Powered by the Apocalypse, because it's like, in one way that's cool because she was able to do so much with it, but on the other side I feel like she showed so much creativity in everything else that she did. I feel like her developing her own system would just make it that much more impressive as a game. So I'm not sure what you guys think about that. I mean, with a Powered by the Apocalypse game in general, like, it seems that you still have to come up with all of the moves and that. Right. But I wish that she kind of developed her own system completely. But that's just my opinion.
So for that, I can certainly see where you're coming from with that. With so much creativity, I can see how it might seem strange to that not everything was like, not that anything can be truly original, but that the base was more original. At the same time, though, I can also see an argument for the fact that so much work and research was clearly made in everything else that I imagine that not reinventing the wheel with the very, very like foundation probably helped her focus on what she really cared about with this game, I would imagine. So again,
No, continue your thought, Nick. Sorry.
So again, I do understand why you might say that. So I do see arguments for both sides. I personally lean towards like didn't have to reinvent the wheel for the base mechanics, but again, I can see where you're coming from there.
And I tried to do a little bit more research on that to understand what exactly the Powered by the Apocalypse base meant. And from what I could tell when I was reading through more articles on it, is that it's more just the system that it's a simplified success, partial success, failure system with 2 die that you're rolling, and it's more narrative based based on moves. So, I mean, that really is kind of a broad idea in general. So it's not like she, like, relied a huge amount on it. She just took the rolling system and used that. Mm-hmm. But even that, she used D10s instead of D12s, which is more common in Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah. And also, since there are so many games out there that are quote-unquote powered by the apocalypse, I feel that's also kind of the intention of the system anyway. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the open resource D&D 5e, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Where it could draw more people in since they know it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So there we go. So that makes it less of a learning curve than it already is, I suppose.
That one part, the plane part.
It's less of a learning curve for rolling dice.
True,
but it doesn't excuse the fact that you still have dozens of moves. Like, I feel like you have at least like 36 moves in the game that are just like general moves that everybody can do, plus your personal moves, plus the mastery skills. So
right. So
there's still quite a lot that she did. But I'm torn between the two is what I'm trying to get at. But as I talk more about it, I feel like I am on Erica's side that even if she did use that as the base system, it's not a small task that she did. It doesn't reduce the amount of work that she put into it.
Right.
And I mean, she didn't do what Wrath and Glory did, which is come up with the most convoluted rolling system you possibly can, just to confuse everybody.
We have seen so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the new version came out this last weekend,
and Tyler has not read it.
I have not even got it yet. I don't know. That's scarring.
Anything else? Was there any other comments, Spencer? I think there might have been a few more.
Yeah. I've got like a billion comments. I'm using that word a lot.
You sent us an email, like, kind of giving us an outline of what your thoughts were.
Billions and billions and billions and billions. So, like I said, the basic mechanics are interesting. I think it's cool, the Powered by the Apocalypse system, that it's more narrative-based because it uses moves as opposed to specific skills. And I think coming from the backgrounds that we have, it's somewhat difficult to get into that mindset. So instead of describing our action and then applying a move to that, we consistently say something like, I'm doing this specific move. You know, I feel like it comes from our background of saying, like, I do a perception check, or I do a medicine check, or whatever it is. Like, we say specific task that we're doing as opposed to describing the scene. So I think that was on us, that we failed a little bit there. But I really do like the narrative base of Powered by the Apocalypse and what this game specifically has. I really like character creation. I thought that was cool. The fact that it has the sheets. And I really like what Ty was saying and what Rebecca said about the airplane. Having that, it's, I think, one of the few games that I can think of that makes travel an actual, like, engaging action. As opposed to a lot of other games where it's just like, we go to this other town and you might fight a bandit on the way, but it's a pretty, like, cut and dry thing. I feel like with air combat, it spices up what travel can be. So I thought that was cool. With character creation, again, it was a fast thing and it was an easy thing too. And I thought the balance that resulted from the character creation was really interesting, because even though you only have 4 core stats, you have so many different stressors and stress relievers and addictions and things like that that make playing a character very different. So for example, if I would have chosen the same stat block as what Tyler had chosen for Wolfgang, we still would have played our characters pretty differently, because he would still have the stressors of a soldier and I would have had the stressors of a worker, and that would have forced us to play the same stat block differently. So
yeah. I forgot to mention trust as well. That's an important part of character creation and and character motivation as well. I think it's really cool that the character creation kind of helps emphasize that and gives you kind of questions to figure out whether your character actually trusts the others or not. Really cool.
I feel like the trust system could use something to oomph it up a little bit, because at least for me, it's just like, oh, I trust this character, I don't, and it can give you like I guess drive to role play differently towards different characters, but maybe there should be different effects or different stresses or different. There are?
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a few. There's a few. But I think like maybe adding some more either negatives or positive things that come from trusting people instead of, I guess, some of the stressors and some of the stress relievers. I don't know. I just feel like I never really used it, but we only played 3 episodes.
We only had 3 episodes, and we all trusted each other. But like one of the things about trust is like Rebecca's character didn't actually trust me. So if she would have tried to help me, I think there was a specific effect because she didn't trust me that it was like a -1 or something like that. It wasn't all that helpful, actually.
Or like
I don't remember.
Or like when Trent revealed himself as a bad guy and was like trying to get me to like side with him. Like, I only trust Wolfgang, so I'm siding
That's why I
with
said
him.
role playing wise, it does give you tools to role play.
When I was like very limited too, because I only trusted the person I knew the longest, and then any other Skyborn, which we had none.
That's true also.
Yeah. And also, trust does certainly come into play with it in a huge way in an aspect of the game that we didn't really use that much, and that was intimacy. The different kinds of intimacy: emotional, physical, mental, things like that. I just decided in general that with such a short session that we probably wouldn't explore that very much, and plus in this group we generally don't deal with certain kinds of intimacy anyway. But that is something that is there if people want, because because pilots are, they live life to the fullest, and whatever their vices are, to deal with stress, whatever it may be, they do that. To kind of cope with how life and flying is really. So certainly trust would come into play with, like Tyler said, role playing, and with some of those other things as well. So.
Like if we ever were disagreeing about something, I would have sided with Tyler.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Talked about character sheets. We talked about formatting the book. One tip I think is maybe putting all the moves in one chapter, but divide them into the different scenarios would be helpful.
That was a tricky thing.
Wasn't there an index or something about that? Or maybe I'm remembering wrong.
I don't like having to flip to 5 different pages to look at something.
They're just in different parts of the book based off the rule sets for each.
I think,
at least from what I can remember.
Yeah, they're broken up because based on like the setting that you're playing in. Setting's not the right word, but the general area that you're playing in. The phase you're in. That's it. The phase and the routine that you're in. Yeah.
But there was like some times when I think like we were on land and I wanted to maybe use something that wasn't part of being like in town or getting a mission. So I think maybe like I think just having maybe that cheat sheet would help a ton. But that's me. And
not just with flying moves, but like all available.
Yeah.
The beta version we have does have blank pages in the reference material section, so it's quite possible maybe some of those things are there. We haven't looked at the final product, but that's still a good comment, I think.
I agree with Ty. I think that perhaps it should be the combination of the two. So you keep everything the way that it is in the rulebook, but then at the end of it, you have a list of all the moves in their entirety. And then you have the cheat sheet as well, which is just like a short summary, very basic bullet points that has it. And then the page reference that you can go to for either the section of the book that it's in or the summary section at the end of the book.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Just so then you have one place you need to go instead of scrolling through. But even then, it wasn't really that bad. It was based on the phases, which was good still.
I'm just lazy.
Yeah, I'm very lazy, so that's the problem.
The one thing that I would say about air combat that I would like to see changed is just a little bit of clarification, because I think in the book she says use as many actions as you want, or as many maneuvers as you want for your turn. So that, like, to me implies that you can do like an aerial maneuver, and then you can boost, and then you can draw a bead, and like you can do like 4 or 5 different actions is the way that I would see it. But I don't feel like that's accurate. I would like to get a little bit more clarification on that.
I kind of thought about that a little bit too, but the thing I thought that maybe you could get countered with is the fact that you have to roll for each of those checks could result in the DM giving you those hard consequences. Mm-hmm. So I think the more you do, you have the more chance of also getting crap thrown your way. Mm-hmm. On top of it,
there also are moves that the GM forces upon people. I think I only used like 1 or 2 of them really, but one of them was fuel check. Like whenever I, the GM, felt like it would be appropriate, then I would say, okay, I want everyone to check their fuel, and then you roll a dice, and you see, maybe something may have suddenly gone wrong or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so maybe that plus what Tyler said could possibly offset that.
Examples for me on how to run an air combat would be sublime. Like,
oh yeah, we did talk about this.
Having
each move was explained in depth, but what would certainly help a lot is to see examples, or if there are examples, certainly more examples of the air combat moves in action.
I would want to see like a scenario combat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Erica, throw it up on a YouTube channel. I'll watch it.
That'd be good.
That would be like a lot of board games, for example, have tutorial videos like that.
You would not believe how useful that is for Uno. Like, for real. Like,
I mean, video and audio is going to be more helpul than
you can try explaining the rules of Uno for like 10 minutes, or watch a 2-minute video.
Yeah, what the hell does a draw 2 mean? 2 what? Come on. Sometimes the words on the page don't do it.
2 Monopoly bucks.
Draw 2 pizzas into my mouth.
That's what I was doing, and then I got diabetes.
Was there anything else in your notes, Spencer?
No, I just want to... The last thing that I want to say is, like, I think it's a really, really awesome game. It's a really... More than anything, I just think that it's impressive how much she created with this. I think it's just a fantastic... I don't even know, like, demonstration of what somebody is capable when they put their mind to it, because I feel like when I read through it, I'm pretty sure that it was just Erica who wrote it. She was pretty much the sole author with other people editing, but it was her. And it just shows how much work she put into it. So I think hats off to you.
For kicks and giggles, credits.
Hats off to you. All I do is just read the games and critique them like a,
Yeah, right. So writing, design, and art by Erica Chappell. There are other people who helped with editing, with like design and setting assistance, additional art, German language consultant. The O'Hara Airworks engineering team. Some advisors and things about plane production.
It goes in
sensitivity
deep.
Consultants as well. So definitely, like, obviously, the work of other people certainly helped make this great. But Erica is up there with writing, design, and art. And the cover of the book does say an RPG by Erica Chappell. So she did do a lot.
The one thing that I think we didn't mention when we were talking about the general setting is that it's also a pretty metaphorical, and she gets at that when she's writing the backgrounds to people and the setting in general, that it is a metaphor in a lot of circumstances of different lifestyles and different sexual orientations, as well as non-binary genders and everything else. So it's a pretty impressive game when you also add in that layer of complexity to it. So yeah, pretty cool game.
Very good. Well done, Erica Chappell, and thank you very much for letting us play your game. It's been a tremendous delight, honestly, to run and to play it. So, great. But yeah, there weren't any other final thoughts, were there? Anything that just kind of came to people's minds at this point?
No.
No? All right. Excellent.
I hope we revisit it for a longer season. That's about it.
Yeah. So cool. Maybe now we can just talk about like what's next in the near future and maybe in the slightly later future as well. The next game we're going to play in this season is A Cool and Lonely Courage, which Spencer will lead us in. I know, so Spencer, you said you started looking at it. I haven't quite read it myself yet. I'm still in grad school. I'm finishing up grad school here. I'm like, it's basically finals week for me.
I haven't quite finished it. I haven't quite looked at it.
I haven't looked at it yet.
You can just say you haven't looked at it. That suffices.
You're right. It does. I haven't looked at it yet. But I don't know, Spencer, if you want to give a few comments about it. At this point.
Yeah. So A Cool and Lonely Courage is a really interesting game. It's a card game, but it's unconventional and different from the other role-playing games that we've played, in the sense that I don't feel like there's a whole ton of playing in it. It's more collaborative storytelling, and it's more improvisational storytelling at that. It's set in World War II, and it deals with the women who were essentially spies for the Allied forces, specifically trained in Britain and then sent to France as special operatives to disseminate information and to transmit messages to the Allied forces and to spy on the Germans there. So it's a really interesting game. It's a little bit darker and more, not darker, but more serious in tone than a lot of the games that we've played in the past. This deals with World War II, and it deals with pretty heavy subject matter from that alone. It might not be as much of a happy listen.
Lighthearted.
But I think it's still going to be an interesting listen and a very interesting game system in general. From what I've read from it, it doesn't seem like there is really a game master or one person in charge. Everybody is telling their story as you go around the circle, and it's based on the cards that you draw and based on the specific suit that you draw. So a different suit represents, like hearts represents love, spades represents complication, clubs represents death, and diamonds represent success. So in the scene that you're describing, one of those things will happen as a result of it. And I think we're probably going to do a system where all the players have already been captured. So it's going to be told mostly in flashbacks. So these women have been captured by the Nazi forces already, and they're telling their story in flashback. And then up until the point that they're captured, and a little bit after that, what results if they make it out alive, if they're killed, etc.
Cool. Yeah, really looking forward to it. The author of A Cool and Lonely Courage, again, is Alex White, or @NAlexWhite on Twitter. So it's really cool that he reached out to us and asked if we could try out the game, and here we are. I can't remember if we talked about starting A Cool and Lonely Courage next week or the week after. Did you need a week?
I think we're doing a week
Spencer,
break.
For a week break, maybe?
If we could read through it this week, if everybody could read through it this week, or if you need to take this week to finish finals, Nick, that's totally chill. It's only about 30 pages, 40 pages of actual reading, and then a few pages of support material. So it's not a terribly long or difficult read. Because I feel like it's a improvisational game, there isn't a whole ton of like prep work that goes into it. It's mostly you create it there. So potentially we could do it next week or start the week after, and I'd be just as happy.
I feel like I could still read it though, even with the final projects I have. So I'd be fine with starting next week.
What about you, Ty? You just started a new job.
It's not too straining, so I
No
think
kidding. They had you work an hour and let you have the rest of the day off. Give you a full day's pay. Of course, no frick, it's not straining.
Right now, it's not. I think
I should have gone into. I should have gone into IT.
Welcome to IT, people. But yeah, welcome. Get ready to see my weakness of improvisation. I really suck at that. So here we go.
I've always been like, I've tried like improv comedy games and stuff, and I never felt like I was good at it. But I also do. But then again, I tend to have like a bit of an improvisational style with my GMing as well. Or maybe I'm just used to improving a bit more as a GM as well.
In other words, Nick doesn't prepare material before he comes to play.
Busted.
To be fair, his groups usually blow whatever plans he makes out of the water anyway.
Well, if you're playing D&D, then yes.
So
anyway,
what's the point?
But
railroad.
Cool. So yeah, A Cool and Lonely Courage. We plan on starting recording that next week. So there's that, and then followed by, of course, two more games after that this season, and we also do have another game that we're gonna play as since we typically do a little mini series between seasons. We had another games writer reach out to us actually today, asking if we could try out their game. So we're going to do that between season 6 and 7 after we've already played the games that we've committed to before. Season 7, we haven't exactly laid out what game we're going to play with there. I've narrowed it down to 3, and it seems like at least Tyler and Spencer have showed an interest in 2 of them. Maybe it was just Tyler.
I think it was just me so far.
Yeah.
I've spoken up about it in the past, but...
Yeah. The 3 games were Happiest Apocalypse on Earth, Iron Sworn, and Legend of the Five Rings. So it's whether or not you guys want to do, you role-playing guys want to do Disneyland Cthulhu. Iron Sworn is like it's a brutal, low magic, sort of Norse-ish setting, but it has an interesting sort of oracle system that can be played without a GM or even by yourself. It's a solo version of it. Then Legend of the Five Rings is a Fantasy Flight role-playing game with
samurai.
Yeah, it takes place in a fantasy version of feudal Japan, a place called Rokugan. But it also adds some of that, some fire, air, earth, water, void magic.
The Avatar.
That's what the 5 rings are. It's like the 5 elements. So
nice. I mean, I love all of them. I think it's Nick's choice.
All right.
Or the listener.
True.
Have we? I can't remember if we've gotten many.
Has anybody responded? Has anybody said anything? Does anybody?
I haven't really posted it. I got the one, but that was mostly Spencer comments saying your mother and other expletives.
That's me behind a screen. I can be rather profane.
Yeah, but I mean, we can definitely post something. To see if anyone wants to throw out specific games that they're interested in us trying out. And
I remember someone saying Witcher or something at one point.
We
Witcher RPG.
We threw out that question, but I don't think we've proposed these specific games as to whether people want to listen to them or choose between them.
I am personally, like, as much as I like all 3 of them and would love to play all 3 of them, I'm leaning a little more towards Legend of the Five Rings right now, especially since I actually helped playtest that game when it was in its alpha version a year and a half ago. So that was which was cool.
So fancy.
So I was able to actually get playtester credit for that. And so I ordered the physical book and the dice for it, which should come tomorrow. So So hence why I'm a little more excited about that one. But I'd be happy with any of them. And I also am open to consider other suggestions. I'm also open to consider listener suggestions as well. Whether people who comment on our Instagram or especially on our Discord, because we're working on getting more people into the Necropodicon Network Discord as of now. So I'm definitely open to dialogue in there as well. Cool. I don't know if there's anything else that we wanted to talk about here at this point.
I think we pretty much hit it all, and now I don't have to do announcements at the beginning of the episode.
And this is understandably also a shorter episode than normal, so cool.
I don't mind that either.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll end it here. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you when we play A Cool and Lonely Courage.
Hey there, it's your old friend Dr. Discord from A Necessary Evil podcast. And if you're like me, you know there just simply aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done. So I always take time to go to necropodicon.com, discover some shows I may have been missing out on, or to check out the cast and crew photos and bios of the shows I already love. There's even a link to join the Discord where you can talk to not only us, but also other fans. How amazing is that? It's all at necropodicon.com. Hard to pronounce, easy to listen.
Dun, da, 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 da.